Welcome everyone to the Ordinary Council meeting for April 2026. Councillors undertook an oath or an affirmation at the beginning of their term of office and declared to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Broken Hill and Hill local government area in the city of Broken Hill, that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published via council's website. To those present in the gallery today, by attending or participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice or comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause or terminate the stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory or otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. We have one apology. Councillor Jewett has requested a leave of absence for this meeting for a prescribed reason. Call for apologies and leave it grant be accepted and leave it grant be accepted. Moved Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Edgecombe. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Prayer, we call on Councillor Boland to do the prayer.
Thank you, Mayor. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Edgecombe.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, the land of the Willakali people, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Councillor Allgate.
I call on, we take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of load. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919-1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mining is our past and our future.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Minutes for confirmation. Do we have a move of that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Council of the City of Broken Hill held on the 25th of March 26 be confirmed?
Move the minutes.
Moved Councillor Allgate, seconded Deputy Mayor Hickey. Any amendments to the minutes?
Not from me.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 7 is disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest by staff or councillors? No. We move to mayoral minute. That's on page 16 of the business paper. The first mayoral minute is to support the campaign to increase federal assistance grants to the local government. The council notes that Country Mayors Association of New South Wales Invest in Us campaign, advocating for increasing Commonwealth financial assistance grants to local government to restore at least 1% of the total Commonwealth tax revenue for local councils. The council recognises the critical role of local government plays in delivering essential services and infrastructure, and that underpin the community wellbeing, economic vitality and national resilience. The council supports the campaign's core messages to invest in us so we can invest in them, and commits to participating in the campaign. Sharing campaign material through council's communication channels, engaging with local media and community stakeholders to raise awareness, lobbying federal representatives support the funding increases. That mayoral correspondence be sent to the Prime Minister, Treasurer, Federal Minister for Local Government, Shadow Minister for Local Government and local and state federal members, expressing council support for the campaign, urging their commitment to the proposed funding increase. And we have a seconder for that. Seconder, Councillor Page. Look, the financial or the federal community assistance grants are really important. They make up a big percentage of particular regional councils. What I have, 1% would go some way to restoring what would make most regional councils somewhat financially viable. I think we also need to, in the future, as regional Australians, look to a system that goes beyond the population. When this grants was first started in early 1970s, it was about making sure that there was a funding stream available to regional communities that made them be able to be financially viable. Because our populations hasn't kept up with that of the capital cities, a lot in regional Australia has dropped away. So not only do we need to increase that 1% of total, and I totally support that initiative, we also need to look at some stage rewriting the way that the federal assistance grants are delivered to Australians as a whole. Regional Australians need a lot more help. If you look at, for example, take one of the worst case is the Central Darling Shire. It is not viable as it is. It's never going to be viable when federal assistance grants are designed on or a big percentage of what they, or 30-odd% is gotten by the actual population of the area. Broken Hill's another one. We have a decent population, but by the same token, we're not growing at the same rate as Sydney, Wollongong, Newcastle, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, etc. So we're always going to fall further and further behind with a formula that rewards population growth. And when you're bringing in new citizens all the time, hundreds of thousands per year, it then makes regional Australia share of that pie reduce every time. So we need to go to the 1%, but we need to start looking at making it more fair beyond the population controls. Councillor Page, I'm sure you'd love to speak to this.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's a huge issue, and a lot of people don't understand how the system works. The structure of it's very unfair. I think the only way, I've said this 1,000 times that it has to be changed and increased, but and that applies to the National Party, Labor Party, Liberal Party. They're all stone deaf to this issue. And I think the only way it could be changed or will be changed is a change of government. All of them have had a chance to fix the problem. It's got to be fixed. Us people living in the outback now, you can name off lots of different issues where we're not getting the services that they have in the cities. And really, us people in the outback, we pick up the financial burden. If you add up the cost that we in the outback, whether it's mining, pastoralist, you can go on and on and on, and yet they're very mean-spirited. They treat us poorly, and this is an issue that's been there for a long time. And I personally think the change of government, will it be the only way we might get some respect in the outback? So it's a huge issue, and it's got to be changed, and it's got to be dealt with if they expect us to stay in an outback region being underfunded. So your comments, Mr. Mayor, 100% agree with your comments. It's quite clear you're up to speed with the issue, and it's time we put pressure on the politicians. That I could say a lot more, but at the moment I won't. I'm disappointed in our politicians over the last 50 years. They blame everyone else but themselves. They haven't spent money on social housing. They haven't done a lot of things that they're too busy running around the world giving huge amounts of money to every place around the world. We, as a nation, we spend more money on foreign aid than we do on local government. So these are the things that, unless you put pressure on the politicians, they'll keep doing what they're doing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very much agreed. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I just commend the Country Mayors Association and Rick Thurman and his executive. This is important that we are coordinated to continue to lobby the federal government around these grants. I mean, the biggest thing about these grants is they're untight. So they're money we can spend where council is needed. The vision about them, they were introduced by Gough Whitlam, I think even before that, know about Gough Whitlam. I think their vision is very clear. It dropped back, and I think Councillor Page and I can remember one time when they said, we'll have a freeze on them, and we never got the money back from the unfreezing in the government. Do you remember that, Councillor Page? So, to be united with country mayors is critical, and I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Turley. Any other speakers? Councillor Aldgate?
Just a comment, I agree with all of the speakers to date, Mayor Kennedy. And I know Councillor Page has been passionate about it for forever, and rightly so. I'd just like to comment in terms of how important grants are to the council itself. The government and the Office of Local Government often are talking about the sustainability of local government throughout New South Wales. And generally everything is city-centric because the rural areas get a very little slice of the pie. And this is an example of that. As you say, based on population. The thing is that Broken Hill City Council couldn't function in anywhere near the function that it does do and the services provided now if we didn't get grants. It's as simple as that. We would be a very, very much smaller council providing less services, and there would have been no new libraries and no new netball courts and all of those things had there been no grants. Grants are the lifeblood of most councils, particularly rural councils. And I agree with everything that's been said that it must be changed.
Thank you, councillor Aldgate. Look, there's a at number 4, invest in us and we can invest in them. That says it all. So if you invest money in regional communities, if the financial assistance and grants, for example, in Broken Hill increase significantly, go from around 7 million to 14 million, which they could under a particular formula, it means that would have the infrastructure here that was invested in the community. Suddenly we'd be able to attract police, teachers, doctors, etc. What happens is if you don't invest in regional communities, you end up with a fly-in, fly-out workforce because we are, as Councillor Page said, Broken Hill and towns like Broken Hill are the lifeblood of New South Wales. We produce all the minerals. We've got a lot of critical minerals out here. If we weren't here, you wouldn't be getting cobalt. You wouldn't be getting potentially what's going to happen at the Pinnacles. You wouldn't be having an iron ore mine out the road because even though it's there and they can have fly in, fly out, if you don't have a town that's stable like Broken Hill, those projects just would not happen. Agriculture is another one all around the state. If we didn't have food, you'd soon find out pretty quickly in Sydney, if there was no food produced in the food bowls of New South Wales, all of a sudden, a week without food in Sydney, you'd soon realise that the money meant nothing without our area. They call it grants, but the reality is it is the government paying it using some of the tax dollars to pay for what they should be doing, and that is providing roads, footpaths, etc. in a city. They call it a grant as if we're giving something. They take the taxes out. They take our income taxes. They take our royalties. They take everything out of the city, and then they tell you they give you a grant back as if they're giving you something. No, they're taking and giving part of what we have back. No, we can survive without grants. They can't survive without us. That's the reality. The grants just give us back some of what we've got and we don't even want any of their grants. They can stick their grants. So we can survive without grants, but we can't survive with them taking our money at the same time. So the reality is start putting back into the country areas, or we'll start coming up with plans that fund ourselves. And if we do, suddenly you won't have food going into Sydney, Melbourne, you won't have resources going out of the country, and they'll soon find out how important we are. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Notices of motions, we have nil. Notices of rescission motions, we have nil. Reports from delegates are nil. We move to committee reports. Corporate and Community Development Committee is the first one. Item 1, the draft Disability Inclusion Action Plan for public exhibition on page 27 of the business paper. Do we have a mover for that?
I'll move the recommendation as listed.
Move Councillor Aldgate, seconded. Councillor Chandler, Councillor Aldgate.
Thanks, Mayor. This is a policy to be put on display for the public exhibition for 28 days. It's an upgraded version of policies that started back in 2017, and it needs to be reviewed every 4 years, the way I see it. It really, the objective of the policy is to ensure that councils make every effort to provide services in the community, services and facilities that are easily accessible by people with disabilities. That meaning buildings, roadways, footpaths, footpath ramps, all the things that are needed. The council has done a hell of a lot of work in terms of that particular amount of work. You know, and the council is always improving, is always responding to complaints we get from people who are disabled in some form. And in recent times, we had a consultant that the council employed visit here from Spinal Life Australia. That consultant was seriously disabled and wheelchair bound. He had a look around the town. He also spoke to a committee of the council. He also put forward his proposals and comments to the Ageing Well Committee. And to sum it all up, he basically said that Broken Hill City Council is doing a pretty fair job compared to many other councils in New South Wales, even city councils. And I think we should acknowledge the fact that although we might have a lot to do, and we do, we're still doing a pretty good job, and we're in front of most other councils.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Move to item 2, adoption of the draft agency information guide. It's on page 103 of the business paper. We have a mover for that.
Move the recommendation.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded councillor Turley. Councillor Allgate.
Once again, it's a policy that has to be renewed. The objective of that policy is to inform all those people that are interested in what Broken Hill City Council as the agency, what the council does, how it operates, where its funding comes from, what information the council holds, how do the community or public members access that information, a whole raft of information that's available about not only local government in Broken Hill, but local government generally and government regulations. All of that is available on this one site that's covered by the information, the draft information agency. It takes some reading, and if you were to look at all of the links, you'd be tied up for days. But in testing just a couple of the links, the council provides a wealth of information about things that people like myself have never even imagined. I think it's a great thing, and people who use it, I'm sure, will be satisfied.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Councillor Turley.
I think councillor Allgate said it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it might be a boring document, councillor Allgate, but it's probably one of the most important documents because it actually shows people what information they're entitled to and how to get that information. And if you really want to know about councils and their operations and what's going on, it's an important document that has ticked all the boxes, and that's the important thing from our point of view. It meets all the legislative requirements that make it a document that makes it easy for the community to work with. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is the draft mobile food vehicles, temporary food stalls and hawking policy for public exhibition on page 136 of the business paper. We have a mover for that. Move councillor Turley. Second, said councillor Allgate. Councillor Turley.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's going out to public exhibition. I think this is the second time that it's been reviewed, so it's pretty explanatory. And my only question, Mr Mayor, to you, to the General Manager, is there some exclusion areas there? I think from Bromide Street down to, anyway, there's some exclusion areas there that already have a practice of food vending stalls. I'm thinking at the Black Lion Inn car park and other areas. Will this, because it says there it's excluded now, is that the intent? Or I'm just,
General Manager.
Thank you through you, Mr Mayor.
sorry, I was just going to say, Mr Mayor, that I'm really worried about my type. You know.
Yeah.
No, this policy is for councils, roads and public footpaths. Anything that's on private property remains able to do so. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is the Broken Hill Lead Reference Group minutes of the meeting held 25th of February 2026 on page 147.
Move that way.
Councillor Boland, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is an important committee. We know Broken Hill's got problems with lead from historical mining. This is a good way to get the reports through and hear from the mining companies. I think at times committee or certain members of committee can think the council is responsible for more than it is. And honestly, we've heard about the federal government funding. There's also a state government funding issue with this committee, if you look at that, with the lead issue in Broken Hill as well. The amount of money they've taken in royalties from the mines, from the mines over 140 plus years is massive, and it needs to be addressed and addressed by the state government and ensure that council has the funding and the grants available to mitigate any lead issues that arise. And as you said, in the government funding or the federal funding part, it's not grants. The amount of money taken out of the Broken Hill mines and away from us over the years is billions. So it's really to protect our community and our town as well. There's some concerns around with the EPA around resourcing and the mitigation isn't happening at the schools, which is quite a concern for a large government department. They're also going through a restructure. Will that affect Broken Hill? We need to know. And you make note, well, we've made note in several meetings that Newcastle gets upwards of $26,000 per property, no matter what, to mitigate lead, or an area near Newcastle. Why isn't Broken Hill receiving the same? Why do we have to fight for crumbs when this town basically industrialised the entire Australian continent? So there's issues around that. I think the dust is always raised. It's a dusty environment. You can't keep dust down all the time. And it's obviously in the councils at DAs as well. So no matter what you do, you're always going to have that problem. But the terms of reference are being reviewed and it's going well. And there'll be some more to come out back with that terms of reference review, particularly around the Chief Scientist report, exactly what council can do and ensure that we're managing not ratepayers' money, ensure the government's putting in what it can, and we're advocating for the same stuff that Newcastle it gets as well. And there's a few other centres around the country that have had historical lead mining or that kind of stuff or smeltering that is also getting looked after more than Broken Hill as well. So it's important that we continue advocating and the committee continues to stay on track and ensure that we're advocating for the community. I note the reports from the Broken Hill mines, the dust suppression, dust binder as it's called, it's good to put on wet surfaces and it's been working well. And I think you see that with the air quality data monitoring as well. The current miners in Broken Hill are doing an amazing job to mitigate the lead coming off their leases. It's we know it's an historical lead problem in this town, and it's a state government problem, not a Broken Hill community problem. It's a state government's problem to fix it for this community.
Thank you. Very well said, Councillor Boland. Any other speakers? Just to put that in perspective about the historical lead in Broken Hill, between 1892 and 1999, there was 28 furnaces firing in Broken Hill, 5 to 7 smelters going off. During that 7-year period, 46,000 tonne of smelted carbonate lead went into the environment. 46,000 tonne of lead was put into the environment over that 8-year period. And the reason that were moved after that was because it was unsustainable. To put that into perspective, the highest lead from operations in Broken Hill since has been 30 tonne per year. So 30 tonne of lead comes off the mines in a single year now from our dust. 46,000 tonne of smelted carbonate lead. So smelted carbonate lead is the lead that was at Port Pirie that's easily absorbed. It's the lead that's sitting out there on Otto's Hill. It's a lead that's sitting up on our line of load, uncovered in areas where it's been trapped. It's the lead that's in your yards. So when people come to town and they start talking about what is happening in Broken Hill, it is incumbent on the state government to take care of places like Otto's Hill, Ayres Street, Crystal Street, which is part of that 46,000 tonne of smelted lead that is in our environment. They often say, oh no, you're a lead city. This is lead that's coming out of the line of load. No, it's not. It was 46,000 tonne of lead that was produced in smelters in an 8-year period. That is the reality. And someone needs to pay the price. They say that it's very difficult to sue past companies such as BHP because it wasn't illegal at the time to allow that lead to happen. I accept that, and I'm sure everyone in this room accepts that. But what we don't accept is that the government has not done something about that 46,000 tonne of smelted lead in 140 years. So they need to get onto it. They need to fix it. They need to stop trying to pass the buck on to councils. It's a state issue. We do what we can as a community to reduce that lead, or as a council to reduce that lead. But unless the state government starts funding the necessary amounts of money to stop it, it's never going to stop. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5 is the nomination for the appointment of community representatives to the Section 355 Memorial Woven Community Committee on page 152.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor Allgate, move. Seconded, Councillor Edgecombe. Councillor Allgate.
Councillor Edgecombe might need to talk about it, but I'd just like to say to welcome Dean Martin to the 355 committee. As a council, we know how difficult it is to attract volunteers to the various 355 and other and advisory committees. So I welcome him and congratulate him on his appointment.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Edgecombe.
Oh, I completely agree with Councillor Allgate. All I was going to say is he'd make a valuable contribution to the committee and a great appointment for the committee. So yeah, completely agree with you, Councillor Allgate.
As the numbers increase, it will be a lot easier. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 1 of the Finance and Governance Committee, draft delivery program incorporating draft operational plan inclusive of the statement of revenue policy and draft schedule of fees and charges for 26-27 for public exhibition. It's on page 158 of the business paper. We have a mover for that. Move Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is an important, very important document. It outlines the rate modelling for the city, where the income's coming from the city, and obviously and the proposed rating strategy around the rate peg, which this council has never gone above the rate peg that's set by the state government. We've never had to seek above and beyond that peg, and it must be noted that the peg has consistently been below inflation. So the council has picked up management improvements throughout the organisation, which is a good effort all round. the balance scenario is obviously always our preferred option, but I reference page 163. We know the fuel crisis is ongoing, and that can affect council just like it's affecting everyone else, and it's something that will need to be watched and monitored. And we've spoken at length about the state and federal government and the support they need to provide regional councils. Well, here's another reason. It's a long way to get stuff to Broken Hill. We're still providing a lot for this country. And this is another reason why the funding needs to come back. And then obviously it continues on to the costs of the renting or hiring council facilities as well, right at the end of the report. And that's an important part of council as well, to outline those and keep them at an affordable cost for the community.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Do we have other speakers?
Just
Councillor Holgate?
Just add the comment that increasing power prices and the recent IPART draft that we've seen in terms of water price increases and power price increases are sort of unknowns, but they're on the way up and they have to be considered as well.
I suppose the other thing that was discussed in those plans is the effect that the increase in fuel charges may have on our city as a whole, not just council. And some of those concerns directly relate to tourism and what we need to do as a council to ensure that our hospitality and tourism sector remain viable over a period where there already is a reduction in tourists coming to the city because of the cost of fuel. As a council, we need to make sure that we do have some mitigation or some other form of mechanism in there that we do try to increase tourism numbers while this is going on. We are getting closer to establishing our renewed tourism association, which will be a really important body that we get going again in Broken Hill to actually try and drive tourism numbers out to Broken Hill, because we can't just, particularly over this period, and we actually have a tourist operator in the gallery. This is one of the actual busiest times of the year, and from my understanding and talking to people, numbers are a little bit low to what they, or significantly low to what they have been in previous years. I don't know if Councillor Boland would like to say, but Councillor Turley before Councillor Boland. Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably it relates to your statement. I just wondered, what is our data at the Visitors Information Centre and out at the Living Desert and our camping site out there? Have we seen a decrease already? And I don't think we're all concerned about where this is going, and I recognise Michael McGiver's in the room, but I'm just wondering, what is our local data from our tourism sites?
Yep. Pass over to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have data. I mean, it's pretty fresh given the war's been going on for a month, so it was early when we did collect this data, but we saw around a 20% reduction within the first 2 weeks of those petrol price increasing dramatically. So I don't know if it's softened a little bit now with some of the relief with fuel, but we have seen a 20% reduction across the board with all our facilities. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. Councillor Boland, then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, 20% is exactly the fall off I've seen in business, and I won't speak for Michael in the gallery as well. He's also a tourism operator, but I know chatting to him at functions, it's a little bit high, but I won't talk for him at the current time. But yeah, 20%, and it was very sudden. It kicked off on the last day or overnight on the 28th of Feb into the 1st of March. And I was on the road travelling around the regions at that time, and the fuel price shot up straight away. And then obviously there was threat of shortages, but it was a very sharp 20% decrease. it's recovered a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure if that's tourist number or just the strength of the city through our development that's going on currently. At its peak, it was peaking at about 25% down and probably stabilised around 15% down. But that's across the board, talking to a lot of hospitality and tourist operators. So that's a lot of money out of the city. And I think a lot of people that come to Broken Hill, a lot of the tourists, the price of diesel may not be such an issue for them. It's the threat of not being able to get diesel, and it's not being helped when our PM tells everyone to leave the baby at home, leave the baby capsule at home, pump the tyres up and take the roof racks off. It's really not the message we need right now.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I just went through my daughter's books at Pooncarie on yesterday, and they're down 45%. So I expect that will follow on. A lot of that, most of those visitors come through there, coming to Broken Hill, and I would suggest that probably Michael's got similar figures to that, because it is just disastrous in the bush at the moment for tourism. Thank you.
If the general manager could just, if we have an update on the proposed tourism association.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is going in through the processes. So we'll have a report coming back to the next council meeting, which will provide more detail there and the way forward. Of course, that'll once that is recommended to council and approved, then there'll still be the time for establishment of that association and getting it up and running. So there will be that time delay before you'll see that take into effect. So on a side note, we've still been continuing to work with Destination Country and Outback around some of the more strategic and ways of attracting visitors to Broken Hill. And the most recent one has been Postcards, which is with Channel 9. So they've been out filming last week and early this week. So that'll be out there, and hopefully that helps attract some more visitors in over that August-September period. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the draft long-term financial plan 27 to 36 for public exhibition on page 272. And do we have a move? That move, Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Boland. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I just lost the place there. Page is that on?
Page 272.
Yeah. Lost on the computer. But I'll just read out the it on my computer. What? No, I might have to not speak on that. Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Any other speakers? Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. The long-term financial plan is always a difficult one. How do you forecast a decade ahead? But it's been well put together, and the Director of Finance and his team must be congratulated on a good effort. These are very, very difficult documents to produce. I do note the $150 million in asset renewals since 2015. And 96 million of that in the last 5 years or so. But the capital program drops to 9 million. Again, seems to be a common theme with me tonight, the federal and state government. I know Councillor Page would be on my side with ripping the federal and state government. But again, we need those grants so we can continue to renew our assets, because not only is that kind of funding important? We have older assets in country areas and they also deteriorate at a higher rate due to the environment out here that needs to be taken into account as well. Also note rates capped at 3.2% over that period. The project's already done the airport, library, archives, work depot. So it's there's a lot been happening. And also I note that the increase in population is also factored in there with the projects coming online up to over 20,000 again, which is good and it's above and beyond what the government department's expecting, but it's an important one, and I believe it's something that is more than can be achieved. And obviously the ongoing war in the Middle East will affect the ongoing long-term financial plan. I think most of us threw our long-term financial plan out in February or March and started again. So it's a good report, and look forward to seeing that population growth and the city continue to improve.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Any other speakers? No? All those in favour? Oh, councillor Allgate.
I was just a comment that to forecast the expenditure over a 10-year period in the current climate is almost impossible. And I think the finance staff have done a wonderful job to get it to the stage it's at.
Yeah, look, I'd like to thank all involved, but I do remind people a report's only as good as the people that are willing to implement it. So it's no good us coming up with a report that talks in 10 years' time as if every year we do a different to what our long-term financial report is recommending. So what has happened over the last several years at least is that council has progressed to try and stay as close to those long-term financial reports as possible, which then gives you the opportunity to plan in the future because you're trying to stay close to them. So I thank all the staff involved. Now it's up to all of us to make sure that we try to adhere to those financial plans as much as possible so that you do eventually achieve what's written in them. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is the adoption of the draft financial reserve policy on page 305. Moved Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Boland. Deputy Mayor.
I will, Mr. Mayor. The adoption that's in the papers compared to the one that's on the web, two different things.
Right.
So Broken Hill City Council report number 4226. The recommendation is that Broken Hill City Council report 4226 dated 14th April 26 be received. And 2, that the council adopts the draft financial reserves policy as a policy of council. And a 3, which is not on the booklet one, that a report be presented to April 2026 council meeting for council to consider what financial options are available in order for council to retain adequate reserves for the remainder of the 25-26 financial year and the 26-27 financial year, whilst cash flow is tight due to the completion of 3 major capital works projects and the timing of the receipt of final grant payments, in order the council's capital works program can continue into the 26-27 financial year.
So I'll just quickly say that. So what's written at the front, so that was the recommendation that went to the corporate meeting, or what was it, government meeting, finance and governance. And then there was a paragraph added, which is the one that comes. So at the front where your recommendations are, it'll be what's written.
That's correct. That's what I've just read.
Yeah. So that's what went to. So the one we're moving, or the one that's being moved at item 3, includes 1, 2, and 3. 3 is that a report be presented at the April council meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have other speakers.
I can finish that if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
Point
thank
of
you, Mayor.
order, Mr. Mayor. Do you mean the May council meeting?
No. No. So
April 26th.
That's today.
yeah.
Oh,
So there's a
okay.
report being. So at the finance and governance meeting, there was asked
Okay.
for a report to be produced at this council meeting, and that was what was passed at number 3 of item 3.
So yeah, thanks, Mac. So further on in our meeting tonight, we'll talk to the general manager for alternatives as to finance, how we do it.
Yeah, so there is a
that-
report further on in the
That's
business
correct.
pack.
That's correct. So I'll just say that we need to put that in there for the simple reason that there's ongoing projects. We've just finished 3 major projects. Some of the finance hasn't come in. We never used the $5 million overdraft that we got, but we need to make some I believe we need to make some alternate arrangements because we don't want projects to stop. And also, if we get a grant and we're running a little bit short, it would mean we'd have to hand the grant back because we wouldn't have enough finances. So we need finances in place where we can do that and move forward. Things like we've talked about the cemetery fence, Pro Heart mural, if the grant isn't successful, potential for airport security upgrades, an essential road footpath maintenance, also Bill Renfrew lighting, which is a cost of approximately 170,000. So things like that, we need to continue on, and we need reserves sitting there so that it's nice and safe. And once we pass this part, the general manager will talk of alternatives that he put his report in for alternative means of finance. Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is the investment report for March 2026 on page 311.
Move that way.
Move councillor Boland, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Good report overall. It's been a good report in the current environment. I'll leave it at that. There are some issues with the reports that with the way the money's allocated, which will be corrected as grant funding comes in and other monies as well. I won't foreshadow. There's other stuff in the further reports where there'll be some money coming into council as well. Obviously, it's down 12% due to when redemption was made on some of the reports. Today, the headline inflation for March was 4.6%. It's not good. Probably the worst is yet to come as well. And we've spoken at length, and we've spoken about the effects on the tourist industry, the effects on council running its fleet, things like that, and then flow-on effects as well. So there'll be more coming. Big question is, will the RBA hold and see what happens with the war, or will they up 25 basis points and the interest rate's 4.35%? The council has got money in term deposits as well and is getting a good interest on that. But basically, yeah, the worst is yet to come, but the council's report is well balanced as normal, and those few little hiccups and non-compliance items will be addressed shortly as grant funding and other funding comes in.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried. Item number 5 is proposed new licence to Aranic Incorporated. We have it on page 327. Do we have a move for that?
Move the recommendation.
Move, councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor,
I have a question.
oh, okay. Second, would you like to ask a question before it?
You
Yeah,
can
move.
take a second. I just have a simple question.
Yep. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Hickey. Councillor Turley.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just the report on this was quite limited, and I just needed to be reminded because there was no detail who Eric was. I hate acronyms.
Yep.
So if I can just be reminded some details around this.
Yep. General Manager.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd have to take ARIC, their actual what it is on notice, but they control the lighting. So the pilot activated lighting that is out there for aircraft when they radio in, but they're the ones that operate that frequency and control. So it's basically just them having that lease area there so that pilots can use the pilot activated lighting at the airfield. But I have to take it on notice for the full business name. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We now move on to further reports. Item number 1 is correspondence report from the ANZ Bank on page 330. Do we have a move for that? Moved Deputy Mayor
Seconded.
Hickey, seconded councillor Allgate. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. We have assurance from the ANZ Bank they will not be closing Broken Hill in the near future. They won't say that for a long term, but they for the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hickey. Any other speakers? I suppose just briefly, it's really important we have that face-to-face banking. Once you start losing that face-to-face banking out of your city, even though it really doesn't affect, it has a perception effect. And the perception effect is when banks start to leave, that your city is going backwards. So it's really important that they do commit, and they have committed, as have the other banks in town committed to remaining in Broken Hill. They have stated, all have stated the importance of having a front of centre face in Broken Hill. So it's good that the banks are saying that. So I appreciate Deputy Mayor Hickey for bringing it up in the first instance, and the ANZ getting back to us to ensure that the community does understand that they were just small things that happened. It's not part of some bigger plan to get rid of the branch. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is correspondence, parliamentary inquiry into new firearms reform. We have this moved, councillor Page, seconded councillor Allgate. Councillor Page.
First time I'll stand up. Well, wait and see how I'll go. Yeah, this is an issue that us people living in the outback that do have firearms. I have quite a few guns handed down from my father and his father, and I don't want to part with them. They virtually never get used, but they're part of history, and we have the right to have a firearm. But I think what needs to be done, the police department in New South Wales is so short-handed. They don't have enough police to do the job they're doing. And I think to get a decent outcome, we need to have the army come in, help the police force, put together a decent proposal, because currently what's being put forward is unacceptable, unworkable, and we're not going to get the outcome. We have people now in New South Wales firebombing churches, firebombing businesses, shooting each other. It's absolute disgraceful, and we haven't got enough police to do the job. So I think it's time they called the army in for a time frame to put together these proposals that they will work and they will straighten out. It's very embarrassing in Australia, born and bred here, and you see the what's going on now, that the whole nation's divided, and doing these things to each church and all these other issues. I think Australia needs a wake-up call. People that do come to our country, if they're not going to conduct themselves in a manner that they're invited to stay here, it might be time for them to go back home where they come from. And I'm not a racist, but by Jesus, what's happened in this country, it's breaking your heart. And I should add too, what the federal government's doing to our soldiers. I'm brokenhearted to prosecute. The politicians send these people over all around the world, our soldiers, and then they want to prosecute them. It's a bloody disgrace.
Thank you, councillor Page. Councillor Allgate.
I agree with everything that Councillor Page has said. And in terms of gun control, after the massacre at Port Arthur, the then government of the day brought in some of the toughest gun laws in the world. And I, like many others, not only in regional areas, but other areas in the metropolitan area that are regular shooters and whatever, I think they believe the same. The gun laws are tight enough. The government, as far as I'm concerned, like Councillor Page says, the government needs to face up to what the problem was in this particular instance that's prompted all this knee-jerk reaction. And it's not gun control, it's the people that have the guns. And, people who want to use guns, it's been proven time and time again, even after the the buyback on the last occasion, some of the rifles, heavy duty rifles that were found at crime scenes were rifles that had been confiscated or handed back to the government at the time, but were still in circulation. So there's no guarantee that because you give your gun back, that it's going to be out of circulation altogether. The big problem is the Islamic problem, and yet the government, both state and federal, will not recognise that. We shouldn't, I don't suppose we should talk about politics, but I'm passionate, like Councillor Page is, that the real problems need to be faced, not these other problems. And I know people that have significant collection of guns, good law-abiding citizens that follow the rules, and their concern is that will they get the prices that they ought to get in terms of handing back rifles. Like Roy Butler said the other day, that he has rifles and some of them are worth about $7,000 or $8,000. I have good friends that have similar rifles, and there's no guarantee that they'll get what they're worth, and that's a big fear. But importantly, the licensing and the issue of licenses is not the problem. The problem is the Islamic problem. And until that's fixed, I don't think changes to the gun laws are going to make any difference whatsoever. And I also agree with what Councillor Page says about Ben Roberts-Smith. That's just an absolute disgrace, a shame on the government.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Page?
Yes, we could talk for a long time on this issue tonight because it's a big issue. It affects everyone in Australia. And like I said, I personally believe the politicians of today are putting politics before this country and before the people of this country. It's shameful. The amount of people I talk to and the comments that Councillor Allgate has made tonight, the comments that I've made, I hear it every day of the week. People are absolutely disgusted. The politicians, the way they're treating the people of this nation. The last 50 years, our biggest enemies have been the politicians. They've sold our resources off. They've sold our rail system off. There's nothing left for the people of Australia. So everything's been sold off. So what quality of politicians this country have had to put up with over the last 50 years, not 1 year, 50 years this country's been sold down the drain.
Thank you, Councillor Turley.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to say, I do find I am challenged by the fact that there is a throwaway line about Islamic problems. We have a community that was bought on the Cameleers of Broken Hill, opened up the outback. We have a community that the Shamroses, the Hassans, all the rest of them are very proud descendants of Muslims. I'm one of them. Raised as a good Catholic girl sometimes. But what I would say, it is not the Islamic issue, it's the extremist issue that we are fronted with. My point of view is that I'm really worried when we make a generalist statement when it's our extremist issues, in my view, that is what challenges our community on all religions, so I just need to put that point.
Thank you, Councillor Turley. Look, just on the parliamentary inquiry, I think it's important that we do have a parliamentary inquiry because some of the things that are being raised about gun buybacks and the compensation that's being given, the price of some of those firearms are already dropped. So today's value for those firearms are probably less than what they would be if they hadn't have called for a buyback. So they need to go back to the price of those firearms before it was called, which is significantly higher than what they are now. The National Gun Buyback, or the buyback scheme that has been proposed, has only been signed on so far by the ACT and the New South Wales governments. So the National Gun Buyback is not a national gun buyback. At the moment, it's New South Wales and Canberra. Because the decision was made in the heat of emotion rather than being thought about. And like anything, if you make things in the heat of the moment, you don't always get them right. And that's the reason that it is so important that a parliamentary inquiry is held, so that the facts are brought forward, so that people can make their decisions based on facts, not fiction or emotion. And we saw that even tonight during our debate, and I can understand the emotions that are involved. But what you need to do is go back to facts. For example, and I understand where Councillor Page and Councillor Allgate come from, the person that was involved in that was in a training camp over in radicalised areas. So people do have to be careful when they make broad sweeping statements, but I do understand what both councillors are saying, and I completely understand what Councillor Turley said in rebuttal to the comment. But what we need to do as a community, and the government needs to do, because don't forget, they're the ones representing all of us, they need to make those decisions based in fact. Some of those gun values that you're talking about, Councillor Allgate, they're actually $40,000 and $50,000. So these are not, these are rifles or weapons that in some cases, for example, one is 600 years old. These are not, these are weapons that would be illegal, or firearms that would be illegal if the new standards come in. And I can assure you, no government's taken that into account. They wouldn't, the Premier, Chris Minns, wouldn't understand that his decision would get rid of an antique that is ball loaded, gunpowder loaded, 600-year musket. He hasn't made that decision even knowing that. But the people that use rifles and use weapons understand it, and understand it fully. So the reason it's important, again, for this inquiry is to ensure that the decisions are made, no matter what they are based in fact, not emotion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 3 is the adoption of the draft community gardens policy on page 337.
Move
Councillor Allgate moves. Seconded. Councillor Page, Councillor Allgate.
No, nothing to offer.
Look, any speakers on that? If we can get this community garden up and going, it'll be really amazing for the people. It's out at the old Alma Pool site. It was first brought to council by community members who still are very interested in having a community gardens out there. A community gardens will ensure that the people that are vested in that area not only keep that area clean, but they also will have a use of it. And if you've got a community gardens or you're growing some produce out there, you can then sell it or provide it potentially to those that may be less fortunate than you are. We have a number of organisations in town that provide food to homeless people. The reality is, if you do have a community garden, suddenly you have produce there that can be given to plenty of people, not just people that are really unfortunate, but people maybe that are doing it hard in these times of economical hardship. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 4 is the Civic Centre and Renback legal action update. We have a mover for that.
Move the recommendation.
It's on page 345. Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Boland. Councillor Allgate.
Well, Mayor Kennedy, where do you start with this this debacle? It's pleasing at the end of the day to know that we're getting some money back. It's doubtful as to how much we're getting back, but hopefully we'll get the 5.8 million. But everything from the way I read the report and the emails we've had about this particular problem, everything seems to be in doubt, and we might not get anywhere near as much as we expect if the culprit, reading back lawyers.
I'll just say to all councillors before they speak about this matter at all, everyone be very careful what they say about council's former solicitor. Be very careful what you say in any context. Keep to the facts that you've been addressed with, because You don't want to be put in a situation that you inadvertently say something at this council meeting that may be able to be used by others against you or the council. So when you do make any comments, and it's up to councillors how they speak, but I'm for telling all that be very careful when speaking about council's former solicitor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll continue to say that it's been suggested by the council's legal team that there is a chance that monies will not be available from the council's original legal firm. And, you know, the whole thing is when you spent $14.5 million in legal fees for services that weren't legitimate in the first place, that were overcharged, that were wrongly charged, that the you know, charges sought that were not in a legal base, not lawful in any way. It just wonders you know, how the council got in this position, and the position this council got into was caused by the Labor Party, the majority Labor Party that was in power during the time. Every time the council's legal advisor requested increases in payments, and there were numerous meetings where these were discussed, the majority of the council, being Labor, voted on each occasion to agree to the payments. There were only 2, sometimes 3 councillors that voted against. Those councillors were then Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Page and Councillor Allgate. The thing is that I know Councillor Kennedy and I realised that early in the piece, a commercial decision should have been made to opt out of the negotiations, because it seemed obvious that we were chasing a figure that was never going to occur. And, you know, it was just snowballing. And when you look back, $14.5 million for legal services, some of which were not approved by the council. The I think it was around about $1.5 million that was approved to defend the previous general manager against the Ombudsman report was never approved. There were other costs like the depot transfer station, all sorts of things that went through that weren't appropriately approved by council. They must have been approved by the then mayor, otherwise they shouldn't have happened.
Councillor Turley.
There's an allegation that the former mayor, myself, had approved something without taking it to council. That did not exist. And Councillor Allgate has raised this before and had been clarified to him.
Councillor Allgate.
I'll withdraw that.
Thank you,
that
Councillor
comment.
Allgate.
But I'll say that when a council hasn't met and the decision has been made to pay accounts in excess of $1 million, somebody has made the decision. And normally in the period between council meetings or extraordinary meetings, the mayor is the one that gives approval. I'm sorry if I assumed that the mayor at the time give that approval, but I know the council didn't, and that still is a real problem. Anyway, the thing is, we spent $14.5 million. We might get $5.8 million back, or we might get just marginally more, or we might not get the 5.8. And that money could have done wonderful things in Broken Hill, an extra 5.8 million plus the interest it would have earned in the period that this debacle is being pursued is a real problem for the community. You know, we were mindful on every job we do since that time. And the current new library is a classic example of that. The library went ahead with the right sort of information and the right people on the project committee and the management of the tenders, and the negotiation for that set tender that was accepted has proved to be a wonderful result, a really wonderful result. And when you compare that to the Civic Centre refurbishment, a job that should have cost in total 5.2 million, I think it was, to finish up with 14.5 million in legal fees alone, is just laughable. And I hope we can do better than the 5.8 million. I'm sure everybody in this room hopes we can do better. But it concerns me. It concerned me at the time. The decisions were made to pay amounts that were exorbitant and clearly exorbitant, and also that it was somebody made a decision to pay significant fees that were never approved by the council.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers? Look, for me, I'm glad it's over. It's been a long running noose around this, or the council and the community's neck. We were awarded 4.7 million, possibly. Yeah, 4.7 million. That means even if we get that back, we'll be 5.8 million out of pocket. That 5.8 million dollars, that if we did have that as a community, and don't forget that 5.8 million dollars, that'd do about 12 kilometres of footpaths. I don't know about councillors, but you hear a lot of councillors hear about doing footpaths and concreting. It would easily do the Norm Fox. It would do many other projects around the city. It would do the entire basketball. We'd probably be able to pull it down and rebuild it, to give you an example, just how much money that is. But it's not money that we have. It's not money we can't get back. So it's a time that we do have to move on from. It's an unfortunate time. One thing that can be proud, and I'd be proud of it, and I'm sure both Councillor Aldgate and Page are proud of, that we did vote against it, because we did see the writing on the wall early. The other thing that I'm proud of, as a council, we did hold the solicitor to account. We did take him to court. We took him to the Supreme Court. He tried to cost the council many, many more millions of dollars by counter litigation, etc. But we were able to get a $4.7 million determination. That's pretty impressive. I can tell you, all over the state, councils, communities are talking about it. Lawyers are talking about it. Judiciaries are talking about it. And what happens if you don't keep an eye on what's going on when you do take on litigation? Because it's important not to trust everyone just because they say they are trustworthy. You need to, as councillors, as members of the community, you need to read everything. If someone gives you a financial document and tells you to read it, you don't just glance at it and give it back and say thank you. You have a look at it, you read it, and you check. You make sure that what they're giving you is right. And it was pretty obvious to me that it wasn't right from a very long time. So we will get some money back in that 4.7 million that we do get back, and hopefully we do get all that back. That's 4.7 million we'll be able to now spend in the community, rather than have that with someone else who we all consider didn't deserve it. But for me, it's a time to move on. I won't beat the councillors involved overhead again. I've said it many times. They ultimately know what's responsible, and the community will judge all that are involved. But for me, this is a time to move on. We've got the money. We move on from this situation, and we do the best we can from the community going forward. Deputy Mayor Hickey.
Oh, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I just wanted to say that I had a email from Paul Keaty, who was the senior solicitor at Buckworth and Keaty Solicitors, congratulating councillors on moving forward and fighting this case to the depths because he said it's so much easier to walk away than it is to fight, but he congratulated all the councillors on their effort. They did. Thank you.
That's really nice to hear because there has been a number of legal professionals that have said the exact same. Councillor Allgate?
One thing I meant to say was that we should be, or I send thanks to the General Manager for his appearance in the Supreme Court. You know, representing his part in the whole thing. And I mean, it's been a stressful time for a lot of people, particularly people like Mr. Jay Nankivell. And I'm sure that his involvement has been extremely beneficial. The General Manager has kept the councillors aware of every move that's been taken. And I don't think anybody has been in the dark. We all know, we all knew on a day-to-day basis what was happening, when it was happening and what the results were. But as the Mayor says, we now have the result and we have to move on. We need to move on, but we need to not forget as well. But I thank the General Manager for his representation council the week and a half or whatever it was that he was in.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other speakers? I'd just like to thank the General Manager and staff involved as well, and the councillors. It's been a stressful time. It's a time now that we can move on from. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is the quarterly budget review statement for the period ended 31st of March 2026 on page 438. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Moved Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Boland. Deputy Mayor Hickey, you'd like to speak to that?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll read out the recommendation so people know what we're talking about. That Broken Hill City Council report number 5426 dated April 23, 26 be received. That the third quarterly budget review statement and recommendation be adopted. Number 3, that council note the projected 25-26 operating deficit before capital of $681,000. Number 4, that council note the 25-26 projected net capital budget expenditure of net capital expenditure of $28,602,000. 5, that in lieu of the previously approved overdraft facility, council authorised the establishment of a 10-year, $10 million revolving loan facility be utilised as necessary to manage cash flow and maximise council's financial efficiency. 6, that council authorise the General Manager to negotiate the terms and conditions of the revolving loan facility with ANZ Bank, and the Mayor and General Manager to execute all necessary documentation to establish that facility. 7, that council authorise General Manager, Director of Finance and Commercial and Manager of Finance as signatories for the facility with any 2 to sign. 8, the General Manager be authorised to utilise, draw down and repay the facility as required to support council's financial position and operational needs based on the most financially prudent outcome for council. Mr. Mayor, could I, through you, get the General Manager to just explain the $10 million facility and yourself, please?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, as per the Finance and Governance Committee and the request, we brought the quarterly budget, the third quarterly budget report forward so that we could bring back the options as we discussed, or as was written in the draft operational plan and long-term financial plan. The finance team and staff were looking at alternate options or options there for councils for the best use of the council's finances and liquidity moving forward, given that we are going through these tight cash phase. From the February council meeting where council resolved to implement a $5 million overdraft account, council hasn't utilised that, but as you can see from the March investment report and the report of the April quarterly budget review, cash is very tight there in regards to covering internal and external restrictions. So the best option that we've brought forward is the utilisation of a $10 million revolving facility. So it is much like a overdraft, a bigger overdraft, but at a low interest rate, the equivalent of lower than a loan. So The interest rate that's being given to council at this point in time is 4.96%, and it's used on the basis of drawing down and repaying it as and when necessary. On the basis that council's currently receiving between 5 and 5.5% in its own term deposits, it makes financial sense to have that money there available to ensure that council's fulfilling its internal and external restrictions as at the end of June, on 30 June, but also when rates start coming in at the end of May, and also that first quarter of August in 2027. Your best efficient use of capital expenditure would be through that facility, as opposed to what you'd earn in your own term deposits. As the Deputy Mayor mentioned as well, we did have concerns and have raised that in the report in regards to ensuring that council does have the available cash there in case there is some timing issues with the grant payments, with the finalisations, particularly of the airport project, which has brought us into this situation, and that will occur over the next month. We will go into that point where we will need to use some of that to facilitate the timing issues, but also ensure that we can hold out any inflationary increases in project budgets due to the Middle East war, but also make sure that council does have on hand cash there for co-contributions to grants. We did make mention within the report. A perfect example is the co-contribution that's required after becoming successful for the I've forgotten the name of the oval now, but I'm going to say the West Football Club oval, Bill Renfrew oval, for the sport lighting. So council was successful for that grant only last week, and it does require a co-contribution. So it does put council in that precarious position to ensure that capital works go ahead. It does need to have those co-contributions. Without this facility, council won't have that availability of cash to proceed with those capital works. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Turley?
I just have two questions. One is, do we need to rescind our overdraft motion firstly?
I would say not, you just don't use it. Councillor, General Manager?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. No, I don't believe so. The way the recommendation's been written, I think it's got that in lieu of the previously approved overdraft facility. So that will withdraw that, but noting that overdraft facility was only for temporary use in the previous recommendation anyway. So once this loan facility comes in, that would be obsolete. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
So the
Councillor
second
Turley?
question is, in years past, we used to have to seek approval from, when it wasn't through T Corp, we used to have to seek permission from the Minister for loans. Do we need to do that? Is there any legislation requirements to do that now?
General Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No requirement for ministerial approval, only notification to the Office of Local Government that we have put in and proposed borrowings, and then obviously, and that happens on an annual basis of any proposed or new borrowings that you've taken out during that financial year. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Look, for me, I'm not a fan of loans. I never have been a fan of loans. But what I do understand is you're getting a loan for 4.96%. You get 0.8% extra in your interest investment accounts. For me, this loan becomes a necessity simply because I think of projects like the airport runway that we are going for, which is a $5 million state grant and a $15 million federal grant, plus $1 million for council. For if any reason suddenly it was $23 million to do that runway, and we had to say, oh, we've got no money, and give back $20 million. So for me, it's common sense to get this loan as a loan that will only be used as we need to use it. It's a loan that sits there similar to an overdraft, but at the same time has the benefit of accruing less interest than we gain from investments. So in probably all the time I've been on council, this is probably one of the few times I'm completely comfortable with borrowing money for the reason of capital expenditure. For me, I think it's really important as a council we continue to invest in our capital or our infrastructure around the city. I don't want to see things stop so that then people say, oh, all of a sudden council's not spending any money, Broken Hill's going backwards. We've got 4.7 million, hopefully that we get back fairly soon from our legal win. That money that will then sit there. Hopefully we get our 20 odd million dollars grand investments for our runway, and all of a sudden the finances look as healthy as they should get. Our first quarter starts coming in for rates very shortly. So not a huge fan of borrowing money, haven't been, but I can see the total merit in this. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. You were for as well, councillor Turley?
I really struggle with it because I understand after your argument, I was rethinking it because I was going to support it. But given the argument, I think councillor Edgecombe said when we looked at the overdraft, the importance of paying our bills, then I will support it.
You are supporting it or not?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, yeah.
You nearly convinced me not to.
Oh,
So, because I'm,
Okay.
you know, like
Yeah,
we did
right.
go for a $10 million loan to use it as capital investment and invest that, very different to this process.
so passed unanimously. Thank you. Item number, oh, I've just done that one. Item number 6 is the local transport forum meeting number 5 held on Tuesday, the 14th of April, 2026 on page 457. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Chandler, councillor Allgate.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All the matters that were raised during the forum meeting, the last forum meeting on Tuesday, April 14, were about parking issues. That seems to be the predominant issue in the town in terms of involvement of the forum. The most important aspect in terms or point about parking issues is the urgency which is needed to have an audit of the taxi ranks in the town with an idea of using some of those taxi ranks for rideshare, perhaps shared, but at least involving use by the rideshare businesses that have formed a group and that are providing, I understand, an extremely valuable service in the first week or two that they've been operating. A lot of the decision making in respect to opening up those taxi ranks that appear to be not being used on a regular basis is the fact that it's taking some time to get a response from the taxi owner, the taxi company owner. And until such time as the taxi company owner can be reached and discussions had with them as to what taxi ranks they really do need to use, well, we can't go any further with it. But other than taxi ranks and disabled parking, the width of disabled parking has been complained about for people with wheelchairs. It's difficult for them to get out of the normal park using a wheelchair to get a wheelchair up to the passenger side door or one of the rear doors, and yeah, that's something that has to be looked at. But all of the matters that have come before the board of the forum in the past period that I've been a member, or not a member, an observer, have predominantly been parking, and most of them have been resolved, but this one is still in the making.
Thank you, councillor Allgate. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 7 is the action list. On page 470, we have a mover for move councillor Gillett, seconded councillor Turley. Councillor Gillett.
It was the least amount of actions that we've had all week. There was only 21. 7 have cleared, 1/3, 2/3 are still in progress. So it's absolutely wonderful that everyone's worked so hard.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. number 4, questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. There was nil. Questions for the next meeting arising from items on this agenda. Do we have anyone that wants to bring up anything for next meeting? There's one that I would, if councillors want to, rather than mayoral minute, if they want to move it as a motion of urgency, is that we write to the appropriate minister and our local member, Roy Butler, about increasing funding for destination country and outback, particularly during this downturn of 20 to 30% in tourist numbers across the region. That includes Brewarrina, Walgett, Central Darling, Wentworth, Balranald, Cobar. At the moment, destination country and outback only receives 0.4% of the funds for tourism and look after about 40% of the state. So that gives you a bit of an idea of just how low their funding is compared to their counterparts across the rest of the state. So I think it was passed at the Western Divisions Association meeting recently, where it was passed unanimous by all councillors or all councils that were there. And I think we need to lead from a city as well. So I think being such a strong tourism-driven community, we need to ensure that the state government understands that we need to have industry groups like Destination Country and Outback be given the funding to help in times when there is downturns of such significant numbers across the far west. Move, councillor Turley. Oh, yep.
Oh, sorry, are you moving this now as a
No, I was
motion?
hoping someone would move it
I'm
as.
happy to move that, and if we can also include, if we could seek advice on the boundaries of destination country and outback, because it's such a big footprint that I really struggle with how it can deliver with the diversity of the regions. And further, that we seek, if there's any opportunity for the General Manager to advise us on any funding grant initiatives, as they did in COVID, to support our rural travellers.
So would you like to move it as motion of urgency first, councillor Turley? I move councillor
Yep,
Turley.
happy to
motion
move that as a motion of urgency.
Seconded, councillor Chandler, all those in favour? Carried unanimous. Now we'll move that motion if just that's been added.
So I'm
Yeah.
happy to move this motion. I think that, three elements. One is about the footprint for country and outback, destination country and outback was always too big to really bed down what needed to be delivered, because the budget for them was incredibly, as the Mayor has said, incredibly challenging. That this is an opportunity to review the boundaries for that footprint, and then we can focus on our rural regional areas and not be in competition with towns like Tamworth and other big metropolitan towns, Dubbo. Further that, at this moment, as we see that the issue in the Middle East is not going to disappear overnight, although we like to wake up at 4 a.m. and check the news to see it has, that we should ask the state government for funding to promote tourism, as was done during COVID. There was a whole heap of grants given to everybody to support their travel in the way of accommodation vouchers. Maybe they could look at some petrol vouchers to help support this.
Thank you, councillor Turley.
Just off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor.
No worries. Seconder for that, councillor Gillett. Any other speakers on that? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have nil confidential matters. As there is no further business for council to consider, I declare the ordinary council meeting closed at 8:03 p.m.